Okay, let's jump right in. Have you ever stopped to think about the machines, the ones making all those fizzy drinks we enjoy?
Yeah, not just the big industrial ones, but the ones on kitchen counters, the restaurant systems.
Exactly. There's this whole massive global industry behind them.
And it's an industry that's, well, it's not just big now, but it looks like it's got some really interesting growth ahead.
Right. So today we're doing a deep dive focused squarely on that world carbonated drink machines. And we're using a report from Cognitive Market Research to guide us, break down the numbers.
hmm It gives us a pretty good framework.
Yeah. So our mission here is basically to take that data, sort of unpack it, and figure out how big this market really is, where the growth is actually happening globally over, say, the next decade.
And what the key trends are, according to their numbers.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut to getting genuinely up to speed on the business of making drinks bubble.
Absolutely. And this report, it gives us a clear snapshot. We get market values, projected growth rates.
Yeah.
It lets us see the momentum in different places.
Okay, so let's start with that big picture then, the global market. Where did the source say it stood maybe back in 2021?
Right. So in 2021, it was already pretty substantial, $3,936.3 million.
Almost $4 billion. Wow.
And it's been moving up steadily. By 2025, the estimate is $5,032 million.
Okay.
And looking further out, the projection for 2033, they're talking $8,223.4 million.
Whoa, okay. That's almost double the 2021 figure by 2033.
Pretty much, yeah.
So what does that growth look like on an annual basis? Is there a CAGR?
There is. The source calculates the global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, for that whole period, 2021 to 2033, at 6.332%.
6.3%. So for a market this size, that sounds like pretty healthy, sustained growth over a long time.
It is. It definitely suggests this isn't a flat market at all.
It's really bubbling up, you could say. But that global number, it probably hides a lot of variation, doesn't it? Where is the growth actually strongest?
It really does vary quite a bit. Let's maybe start with North America. The source mentioned it held the biggest regional share initially.
Okay, North America, what are the numbers there?
So it was valued at $1,527.27 million in 2021 and projected to grow to $2,906.98 million by 2033. The regional TGR for North America specifically, that comes in at 5.515%.
Okay, so still the biggest chunk, it sounds like, but growing a little slower than that global average of 6.3%.
Exactly.
Is that kind of consistent across the U.S., Canada, Mexico? Or are there differences?
Well, there are definitely differences. The U.S., which is the biggest market within North America,
Right.
shows a CGR of 5.188%. So pretty close to that regional average, maybe slightly under.
Okay.
Canada's a bit faster, actually, 6.042%.
Ah, interesting. And Mexico?
Now, Mexico is where you really see that variation pop. It's projected to have the fastest growth in North America. The RAGR there is 6.97%.
Wow, nearly 7%. So even within a more, let's say, mature market like North America, you've got these pockets accelerating much faster.
Precisely. It highlights that, yeah. A stronger fizz happening south of the border, as you put it.
Fascinating. Okay, let's hop over to Europe. How does that market stack up?
Europe's the second largest region. The source puts it at $11,121.84 million back in 2021, growing to a projected $2,253.22 million by 2033.
Okay.
Its regional CAGR is 5.997%. So a bit closer to the global average than North America was.
Right, almost 6%. Still strong growth in absolute dollars, but again, maybe slightly trailing that overall global pace. The report listed a whole bunch of European countries, didn't it? Are the growth rates pretty similar there?
Not really, no. Europe's actually quite a mix. You've got some of the big economies like the UK, Germany, France,
Yeah.
growing steadily. Their KGRs are sort of in the range of 5% to just over 5.3%. Significant markets, obviously, but their growth rate is a tad below the European average.
Okay, so where is the faster growth happening in Europe then, based on this data?
Well, you see Italy with a slightly higher rate, 5.71%. But then you've got several countries growing quite a bit faster. Russia's projected for a 6.338% CAGR.
Okay.
Spain shows really strong growth, 7.419% CAGR.
Wow.
And Denmark is highlighted too, surging growth, they call it,
Yeah.
at 7.926%.
Denmark, almost 8%.
Yeah. And even the category Rest of Europe, which bundles together smaller markets, shows an impressive 7.238% CAGR.
So it's really not just the big players driving the percentage growth there. Places like Spain, Denmark, maybe some of those smaller rest of Europe markets are really accelerating.
Exactly.
That really underscores that point about variation within regions, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It suggests demand might be picking up particularly fast in certain spots, maybe linked to, changing habits or commercial expansion, like the source hints at.
Makes sense. Okay, let's pivot now. Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
The source flagged this one as the leader in growth speed, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, Asia Pacific starts smaller than North America or Europe in 2021, around $810 million. But it's projected to leap to over $2 billion, 2014.74 million by 2033. And this is driven by the highest regional CGR in the whole report, 7.895%.
Nearly 8%. That's quite a bit faster than the global average. What's fueling that?
Well, the big one is China. It's got both immense size and high growth, an 8.477% CGR projected. That takes its market over $700 million by 2033.
Huge.
Japan's also a large market, solid growth too, around 6.6%.
And India. I think I saw India mentioned with a really high rate somewhere.
You did. You're right. India really stands out. It has one of the highest country CGRs globally in this data set,
Yeah.
9.11%.
9.1%. That's wow.
Yeah, the rapid expansion is a huge factor in APAC's overall leading growth rate.
Almost double the U.S. growth rate. That's remarkable. What other parts of Asia are looking strong?
Southeast Asia, as a kind of sub-region, is projected to hit over $215 million by 2033. Its TGR is also very high, 8.02%.
Okay.
And then you have markets like South Korea, Australia, Taiwan, all showing solid growth, targeting pretty significant market values. And even the rest of APAC category also boasts a really high CGR, 9.026%. Now, that's starting from a smaller base, but still very fast growth.
So Asia Pacific isn't just growing fast overall. It's like consistently fast across multiple big markets and subregions. It really looks like the engine for percentage growth right now.
It does seem that way, likely driven by those expanding markets and rising demand the source mentions.
Okay, so after APAC's near 8%, where do we see the next highest growth rates?
That would be South America and the Middle East. They both show strong projected growth, actually faster than the global average.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, South America's GGR is 6.887%, going from about $180 million in 2021 to projected over $400 million in 2033.
Okay.
And the Middle East is remarkably similar, TGR of 6.899%, projected to reach almost $400 million by 2033 as well.
Almost identical growth rates. And within those regions, are there specific hotspots driving that?
Yeah, definitely. In South America, Brazil is the biggest market, and it also leads the regional growth, 7.547% TDGR.
Okay, Brazil leading the charge.
Mm-hmm. Other countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile are all contributing too, though the rest of South America category shows more moderate growth, interestingly, around 5%.
Okay, and the Middle East, similar pattern.
Very similar. Saudi Arabia and Turkey really stand out there. High growth rates, both over 7%. Saudi Arabia's is 7.137%. Turkey's is 7.236%.
Right.
And then countries like the UAE, Egypt, Qatar also projected for a significant market sizes by 2033.
So right across these emerging markets, you're seeing specific countries really pulling that regional growth rate up, just like we saw with Mexico or Spain and Denmark.
Exactly.
But maybe on a slightly broader scale here?
Precisely. It really points towards those more localized factors driving demand or perhaps market penetration, getting these machines into more places.
Makes sense. Okay, lastly then, Africa. What's the picture there?
So the African market is projected to grow from about $122 million in 2021 to $250.814 million by 2033. The CG area there is 5.696%. So, solid growth, but slightly below the global average and a bit behind those other emerging regions we just discussed.
Okay, 5.7%. And are there key countries driving that in Africa?
Nigeria and South Africa are noted specifically. They have substantial market projections for 2033, so they contribute a lot to that regional total.
Right.
And the rest of Africa category also shows a pretty healthy CAGR, actually slightly above the regional average at 6.116%.
Okay, so that gives us a really comprehensive tour from this cognitive market research data if we try to sort of synthesize what really stands out.
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is that clear projection for strong, sustained global growth right through to 2033. That 6.3% overall CAGR is pretty solid.
Yeah.
And while North America might hold the biggest share now, the story of momentum, of speed, is clearly centered in Asia-Pacific. It leads in percentage growth, and that's really boosted by China and especially India's rapid expansion.
Right, that 9% plus in India is huge. But it's not just APAC, is it? We saw these distinct pockets of much faster growth almost everywhere.
Totally. Mexico and North America, Spain and Denmark and Europe.
Brazil and South America, Saudi Arabia and Turkey in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. and even parts of Africa growing faster than the regional average.
Hmm.
It's a real contrast to the more moderate, albeit still large, growth in established markets like the US, UK, Germany, France. Yeah. And this kind of raises an important point about the drivers, right? The source generally talks about rising demand, expanding markets, innovation.
Standard stuff.
Yeah, standard stuff. But the data lets us pinpoint where those factors seem to be having the biggest impact, where they're really accelerating the market.
Exactly. As, consumer tastes change globally and businesses look for efficient beverage solutions, these machines just become more central.
Yeah.
The report definitely highlights that this market is bubbling up, but with really different intensity around the world.
It's a much more dynamic picture than just assuming everything grows at the same rate.
Totally agree. So wrapping this part up, we see a global market set for pretty significant expansion, APAC's leading the charge in speed. But there are these really compelling high-growth stories happening in specific countries just about everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about those really wide variations in growth rates we unpacked, from steady single digits in some places to over 9% in India, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How do those broad drivers like rising demand or innovation actually translate into such specific local surges? Like what unique blend of economic factors or maybe cultural shifts or even regulations might be making the fizz accelerate so much faster in Denmark or Mexico or India compared to their neighbors? Something for you to think about as you digest these numbers.
Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we are jumping right into the carbonated drink machines market.
Yeah, fizzy drinks.
Exactly. So our mission here is to really dig into the analysis we've got, specifically from cognitive market research. We want to understand the forces, shaping how we get our carbonated drinks these days.
Right. Whether that's in a restaurant setting or even right in your own kitchen.
It's a market that maybe seems straightforward, but there's actually quite a bit going on under the surface.
Oh, definitely. It's being, well, let's say quietly reshaped. Consumer preferences are changing, and technology isn't standing still either.
For sure. So think of this as your quick way to get up to speed on this specific bubbly corner of the beverage world.
We'll be looking at what the source material highlights, mainly the growth drivers.
The things pushing it forward.
And then also the restraints, the challenges holding it back a bit.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's dive in then. Where do we start? Drivers.
Let's start with the drivers. And what's really fascinating when you look at the data is just how much consumer preference is, well, steering the ship.
Oh, okay.
The analysis really points to this rising demand for, healthier drinks and also customizable drinks. That seems fundamental.
Right. People are actively looking for options beyond the traditional sugary sodas.
Exactly. They want alternatives.
And you really see that playing out, don't you? It's not just avoiding sugar. It's looking for, flavored sparkling water, low-gal options.
Or even drinks that have some kind of perceived health benefit.
It ties into that whole wellness trend we see everywhere.
Absolutely. And the source actually gives a pretty striking example of this. If you look at data from Metro Atlanta,
Okay.
those functional soft drinks, especially prebiotic sodas, the ones meant to help with digestive health, they actually made up, get this, 2.8% of total soft drink sales between February 2024 and January 2025.
Wow. 2.8% just for prebiotic sodas in a big city like Atlanta. That's actually more than I would have guessed.
It is significant. Brands like Olipop, the ones putting plant fibers and botanicals in their drinks, they're perfect examples.
So people want drinks that do more than just refresh. They want tailored benefits.
That's the idea. Health and customization, clearly a huge factor.
Okay, so that's one major force.
Yeah.
What else is driving the market forward, according to the source?
The second big one, and this is where things get really interesting, is technology. The advancements in the machines themselves.
And the carbonators.
Yeah. These innovations are changing the whole user experience, making it easier, more versatile.
You mean more than just pressing a button and hoping for the best?
Much more. Modern machines are getting smarter. We're talking intuitive digital controls.
Okay.
Precise ways to adjust the CO2 level so you control exactly how fizzy it is.
The kind of fizz.
Right. And even mobile app connectivity for some models. The source mentions how electric systems are automating the CO2 infusion. That means consistent, precise carbonation every time.
That consistency and precision, that's really key for the customization angle, isn't it?
Definitely.
And didn't the source mention the Ninja Thirsty machines specifically as an example of this?
Yes, it did. It's held up as a prime example of how home carbonation is evolving.
How so?
Well, the Ninja Thirsty offers really extensive customization. You can tweak not just the fizz level, but even things like bubble size, apparently,
Hmm.
and flavor intensity using their zero-calorie pods.
Huh. Bubble size. Interesting.
Yeah. So it perfectly hits that spot, the consumer desire for tailored drinks, combined with the convenience that technology brings.
Okay, so we've got these powerful drivers, demand for healthy custom drinks like the prebiotic trend with Olipop,
Mm.
and then you have the tech getting smarter in machines like the Ninja Thirsty. Sounds like a market set to really take off.
It does sound that way.
But the analysis from cognitive market research also clearly flags some significant hurdles, forces holding things back.
Right.
What are the big restraints?
Well, the biggest one, no surprise, really, is cost.
Cost, right.
And this hits in two ways. The high initial price tag for the equipment itself, and then the ongoing recurring costs.
And that impacts different people differently, I imagine. Businesses versus home users.
Absolutely. For commercial users, think restaurants, bars, maybe small bottling places. The initial money needed for good, robust carbonation gear can be pretty substantial.
How substantial?
The source actually gives a specific number from New Delhi, India. Even a fairly basic automatic soda carbonator machine there could cost around Rs 94,400.
Wow, okay. That's a significant chunk of change just to get started.
It really is a major barrier, especially if you're a smaller business.
Makes sense.
And then you've got the running costs, regular maintenance, maybe parts need replacing, and crucially, buying more CO2. That all adds up and puts pressure on budgets.
Okay, so that's the commercial side. What about for someone like me, just wanting a machine at home? The machine itself might seem okay price-wise at first.
Right, the initial machine cost has come down for home models, which is good, but the analysis points out that you're then locked into needing regular CO2 refills.
Ah, the refill.
And often their own proprietary flavorings too, which also adds up. But the really big pain point, the thing the source emphasizes as a major restraint,
Yeah.
is the disproportionately high cost of refilling those CO2 cylinders.
Disproportionately high. What does that mean exactly? How big is the difference?
Well, the source gives a comparison that's pretty eye-opening.
Okay.
Refilling a standard cylinder, maybe like a SodaStream one, might cost you, say, $29.99 over the counter.
Right, sounds familiar.
But if you could source and refill a similar size cylinder through other means, like alternative suppliers, maybe non-official ones, the cost could potentially be dramatically lower.
How low?
Sometimes the analysis suggests as low as maybe $2 to $4.
Wait, $2 to $4 compared to nearly $30?
That's the disparity highlighted by the research. And you can see how that would be a major turnoff for people thinking about long-term use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That completely changes the maths on whether it's cheaper than buying bottles or cans.
Exactly. It undermines that whole cost-saving argument, which was often a big selling point for these machines.
Wow. Okay, that difference is genuinely staggering.
Yeah.
So let's recap this deep dive then. The carbonated drink machines market. It's really being pushed forward by consumers wanting healthier, more personalized drinks.
Yep. Fueled by trends like prebiotic sodas, brands like Olipop catching on.
And enabled by big leaps in technology, making machines smarter and more versatile like the Ninja Thirsty.
But at the same time, it's facing this major headwind from cost.
Yeah, high initial costs for businesses.
And for everyone, those ongoing expenses, especially that shockingly disproportionate cost for CO2 refills that the analysis really flags as a barrier.
So understanding these pushes and pulls, the drivers and restraints, it gives you a much clearer picture of why the market is the way it is. It helps make sense of the options you see out there, whether you're thinking about buying a machine yourself or you're just curious about the trends affecting the drinks on the shelf.
Definitely. Which leads to a pretty interesting question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Given this real tension, you've got this strong consumer pull for customization and health powered by innovation, but it's crashing right into that big wall of ongoing costs, especially those CO2 refills. How do you think the market is going to figure this out? How can they make home carbonation affordable enough for lots of people to really adopt it long term while still delivering those cool, innovative, customized features everyone seems to want?
This is a tough one. Balancing cost and features.
It's a real puzzle for the industry to solve moving forward.